and welcome to Chewing the Cud, Season 2, Episode 6. My name's Andrew Jones.
And Neil Greggor. We're here to entertain you again.
Well, that's
everybody as well.
Yeah, that's what we're here to try and do, especially as it's now our December episode. So I guess first things first, happy Christmas, everybody.
Yeah.
Joy, that sounds a lot.
Busy roads, people.
Well, yes. Anyway, so
rain, of course.
It's now, well, as we record this, we're currently in the middle of, I was going to say cyclone. That's where we'll get on to.
Yeah.
It's Storm Kieran, is it?
Like that,
so there's rain all around us.
Around us immediately, Hampshire and those areas.
But anyway, not to worry. So it's December, and like usual, we try and have a podcast that's a little bit different, maybe a little bit more entertaining.
Yep.
So last year we had Greg Ridout, who talked about becoming an auctioneer.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm a bit surprised that Greg hasn't had the listeners I was expecting, if you look at them. But everyone that does listen to it absolutely loves it. And
it was a good podcast.
It was. What a character he was. So hopefully our guest today will entertain just as well.
No pressure.
No pressure. And hopefully the technology works today. We are joined by one of my old neighbours, James Geraghty, from up near Miller in far North Queensland. So I'll say morning, but it's evening your end. How are things, James?
Yeah, just as you blokes are cooling down, we're warming up. We're coming into our storm season now. And we're definitely waiting on the storms. We haven't had rain since the 9th of October, and believe it or not, we're getting desperate.
Yeah. For Miller, that's saying something.
It is.
So we will talk about that definitely as we go along. But James, let's do what we usually do. Let's start with you. How did you get to where you are today within the dairy industry?
Righto, so my grandfather used to milk cows at Lismore, which is in northern New South Wales.
Yep.
So that's about 2,200 kilometres south of where we currently are. In 1932, they moved up to the tablelands here, which a lot of people from Lismore did. All the Reynoldses, Tranters, Dailies, they all came from Lismore. Emerson's, Graham's, all the key names in the industry all moved up, but they came before my family did. So we moved up.
There's a lot didn't they? They're all names, families, names I recognise, and that's what I understand from my time in. Well, geez, that's 25 years ago nearly now. They all sort of moved up from Lismore. I guess brought cattle with them as they came.
Well, I was just going to say, Andrew, they chased the cattle. They walked the cattle from Lismore to North Queensland.
How long did it take them? Do you know?
No, I don't, mate. I thought of that just before I got on this with you. I should know, but I do know that when they came up, they hit ticks, and they lost a considerable amount of cattle to the tick fever.
Yeah.
So, do you have ticks in England?
Yes, they seem to surprisingly be getting a little bit more and more, but we don't get the paralysis tick over here. And it's interesting, when I first came back, nearly 15 years ago, and I was milking for somebody, I was picking up ticks a lot quicker than the vets were going, how did you pick that up? It's like, because I'm used to dealing with it in North Queensland, I knew what the signs were. So there are ticks around, and they do seem to be getting more prevalent.
Mm.
So, mate, we come up, we bought a block at Miranda. Long story short, my father and my uncle took that block on, and we stayed out there until 1981. I finished school on the 20th of November, took over this farm on the 1st of December with my mother and father, and still here.
Is that block in Miranda? That wouldn't be where your cousin was farming, was it? Or is that a different one?
He was in Atherton. Remember
That's
Ned
right.
McDonald?
Yep,
that was my block. That's where I grew up. So just as a aside, I went back and saw my bank manager when Nev went to sell it.
Yep.
I said to the bank manager, I want 2.2 million to buy that 1,000 acres back. When he stopped laughing and got himself off the floor and looked up over the top of the desk, he looked at me, he goes, "You were serious?" I went, "Yeah, I was serious." "Oh man," he said, "I'm sorry." And he sent us out a payment book for something we were buying, and he says, "Please find enclosed payment book for loan number ... Regards, Merv." PS, if you still want that 2.2 mil, buy a lotto ticket. It's the only hope you've got.
So yes, you've been where you are in Millard, you say, since 81.
Yep.
And so how many, or what changes, how many cows, etc. you're milking now?
Righto, so the day we took over here, we were milking 68. Normally we would have milked 80 to 90. We bumped that up to 120. We leased the place next door in 1983. We leased another place next door in 85. We had a heifer block away from here. Yeah, we sort of grew it and grew it. And one of the mates come out one day and he said, this is like, my dad passed away on Christmas morning, 1990. And this would have been the mid-90s. He came out and he looked around and he said, did you really think it'd take you this long to get this farm in shape? And I said, man, I thought it was in shape when we bought it. I mean, it's not about getting it in shape. It's just the changes that are happening in the industry and the world. So fast forward to today, we own 3 blocks here in conjunction with the bank. We've sold our heifer block. We still lease the block that we leased in 1983. Kevin, my brother-in-law, you know him. We leased his 3 blocks. We lease another block for some people that live in Townsville. They just bought it as a house site, so we lease that. So we look after about 1,300 acres, Andrew.
Yep.
Wow.
So it keeps us out of the pub on Sundays, mate. But yeah.
It's probably more than that when you think of, I know the topography of the area. I mean, I know where we were, the original block we brought, but blocks was 1,000 acres, and I'd worked on a 1,000-acre farm over here, and I tell you something, it was a damn sight more than 1,000 acres because it's so undulating up on the tablelands.
The area's only taken on the flat. So just to tell you what the topography here is like, if you go down to the back of our block here, you go through the boundary fence into the block that we've leased on and off since 1981. You go out on the end of the ridge. If you go forward 300 feet, you will be 300 feet above the ground under you. It actually drops 300 feet in 300 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely different country, mate. I did a course in 1996. I was told I needed to do the course, so I went and did the course. If I hadn't done that course, I wouldn't be doing what I do today. So I've just finished up doing, I don't know, what is it? This is 2023. So I've just finished doing 22 years with Queensland Dairy Organisation, which is a industry lobby group. Finished that up 12 months ago. And I'm just up for re-election at the moment for DFMC, the supply cooperative that supplies the factory in Malandra, and then down in southern Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. And this must be 14 years I've done with them so far. And whether I go forward or not, we'll find out next week. So
how many are you milking at home at the moment?
We're milking about 220. We're actually low in numbers. We should be milking more than that. Up until Bega bought us 3 years ago, our previous owners, the company that owned us previously, the processing plants, did not want milk. They are actually dropping the volume of milk they required, which is very, very frustrating.
Who did Bega buy it from? I forget.
Righto, so Bega bought it from Lion. Lion bought it from Sam McGwell. Sam McGwell bought it from National Foods.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, Bega's a breath of fresh air for us. You know, you go out, you make the milk, we'll process it.
Yeah, we'll worry about what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're the milk processor. That's our job. You just go and produce it.
Yeah.
So that's a breath of fresh air to my farmers.
Well, when I was with you, there was about 200 farms, and about 120 million litres going through Malanda. What is it today then in total when you say that?
Right, so when I came here in 1981, there was 268 farms. I don't honestly know what the production was at that time, but on the 1st of July 2000, the day that we deregulated the industry in Australia, there was 185 farms, and we did 134 million litres that year. And last year, there would have been about 36 or 37 farms, and we did 43 million litres last year for the tableland to the Malanda factory.
And that's just to Malanda now, isn't it? Because obviously you do have Mungali now who've got several farms, etc. as well, haven't you?
They've actually lost the farm as well, so they've got 8 left with them. They had 9. So, but it's a lot better than it was 15 months ago, Andrew.
Yeah.
So
So who's any of the kids at home with you, James, or are they all doing their own thing?
No, they're all away, mate. Shawnee's down in the coal, just got passed out on a 650-ton digger. Paddy went to our youngest one.
Did you say 650 ton?
Yep. Shawnee wanted to drive big machinery, and to do that, he needed to go to the coal. So he went and saw his boss, had a discussion with his boss, and his boss said, "Look, mate, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to lose you, but you're doing exactly what I did. And I totally understand." No, go that way. You could be famous.
Come on, Sari, you can join us.
No, it's actually Stace. She's just gone past. Look, his boss said, "Look, I did exactly the same thing. I fully understand. You go, but if you ever want to come back, come back." So Rob come home 6 weeks ago, and he said he just got passed out on the 450-ton digger, and they've just shifted mine sites, and before they went, they passed him out on the 650-ton digger.
Wow.
I can't even comprehend what we're talking about.
No, likewise.
Yeah. I know what a 30 and a 40-ton digger look like, but yeah. Paddy, our youngest fella, he went to Perth Christmas Day last year. Been doing driving delivery trucks around Perth, and he's just picked up a job on the diamond drills over there. So he's up at Port Hedland, and he's working in 45-degree temperatures every day, and absolutely loving it.
Wow, isn't that fantastic? Yeah.
Look, they got to find their own path, mate. And as you're fully aware, Annalisa was meant to go and find a husband and bring him home to milk my cows. Well, she went and found a better farm and went and milked his cows. Well, that didn't work out quite the way it was meant to. But yeah.
But do you think any of them will ever come home?
Look, Kirsten would like to come home, I think, but mate, she's got a life now. Her young fella is about 10 years old, and he decided to race motocross, and Kirsten, my daughter's 33 this year, sorry. She just looked at him and said, "Well, mate, if I've got to run you to motocross and sit there all day and watch you ride, I might as well buy a bike and I'll ride too."
Have a go too.
He rides motocross, she rides motocross, and now his little sister rides motocross. And Toddy, you'll know what I'm talking about, Andrew. Kirsten's husband thinks that Mount Surprise is the perfect climate to live in. So that's to the listeners, that's about 3 hours to the west of us. Gets about 600, maybe 700 mils of rain a year versus our 3.5 meters of rain a year.
We should say that is James. It's 3.5 meters a year, just in case anyone's going, "What?" That is legit. That is what an average rainfall is where you are, isn't it?
It is, and if we look at our back door at Topaz, which is, as you're fully aware, literally 5 kilometres away from us to the north, they average 5 metres a year. So yeah,
it's a phenomenal amount of water.
It is. It is.
Really, it is.
It is.
But it's a beautiful country.
I bet.
Yeah. Look, I can't complain. It was a lovely place. It's just when you had to work in it and all it did was rain all the time. When the sun,
Not since the 9th of October, Andrew.
you know, when the sun shined, yeah, it was beautiful country. There's no doubt about it.
All the rain that's been here since the 9th of October.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got it.
So that's a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of history about dairying in North Queensland, because I mean, certainly what I remember of it, really, the country was only sort of cleared. What, about 1911 was it? Miller was founded, or something like that.
Early 1900s, when the dairy, everyone had a cow, and everyone, on the road where I live, we are the only dairy here now. Back in history, there was 8 dairies on this road. When we came here, there was 8 dairies this side of Miller. We are now the only dairy this side of Miller, apart from the Mungali boys. The world has changed a lot, but in the original days, it was all butter. And we actually dealt with England. We were pretty much part of English colonies.
Well, yeah, part of the Commonwealth and part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we became a federated self-entity in 1900, but we were still tied to the apron string, so to speak, and we still sold butter to England. It was only when the Americans turned up and they wanted to drink the milk, and it had to be pasteurised milk. That's when
we're talking Second World War now, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, that's right. Late 30s, early 40s. That's when the dairy industry really took off, as we see it today. So there was literally tens and tens of thousands. So just because you raised it, the Americans were here, and I'm telling the truth. I mean, a lot of people won't, but if you get on Google and type in tree climbing kangaroo, you will find out that there is such a thing. So they look like kangaroos, but they live in trees and they actually climb trees. So my mother and my grandfather lived just behind what you know as Gallows Chocolate Factory, Andrew.
Yep.
Probably 2 kilometres from there, my mother and her family had a dairy there. And they used to, during the war years, the Americans would walk over and buy chickens and eggs and meat and fruit and whatever they had that they could sell. So Granddad was there one day, and the soldier turned up and he got what he needed. And Granddad said, "Oh, do you want to see a tree climbing kangaroo?" And this bloke looked at him and he goes, "You Aussies," he said, "you're always taking the piss, eh?" He said, No. He said, I got this tree climbing kangaroo. Yeah, right. He said, no, come and have a look. So they went down the orchard, because Granddad used to catch them and bring them home and put them up the fruit trees. So this bloke goes out with him and they look down and they went through every tree. And he said, I knew you was taking the piss. And in the last tree, here's this tree climbing kangaroo. This yank looked at Granddad and he goes, "Can I have that?" And he goes, what are you going to do with it? He said, "Man, if I go back and I tell them I seen a kangaroo what climbs trees and I haven't got it, they're going to put me in the brig." So that battalion, if you grab these things by the tail, they will walk in front of you a bit like a wheelbarrow.
Oh, I've heard that story at the time. I remember it now. Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
So
Yes.
he walked it from Gallows Chocolate Factory back to Carrington, where they were camped, carrying all the stuff that he bought off Granddad and And wherever that battalion went after that, that was their mascot. Yeah.
Wow.
So righto.
But the Yanks were certainly, what I'm told, down my road as well, weren't they? I think someone told me they'd seen shell casings and whatever, where they'd been using it for target practice and whatever. Before obviously they went up, up into Indonesia or whatever, wherever they went from you.
Well, as we talked about before, where I grew up at Malanda, I always knew there's a trig station on top of a hill on the property next door to us. To me, trigonometry is like like map reading.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a bloke a while back, and he said, no, they had an artillery gun on top of that hill protecting the harbour at Marillion.
Right.
And I'm just looking going, really? From there? You know, that must be 30 kilometres. So I don't know. I mean, they were, I know on the old farm where I grew up, there was foxholes all over the place where they must have been training. They'd come in and dig a hole, and there'd be a hole on one side and a little hillock on the other side, and they'd just be everywhere. But they were old when I was growing up there, obviously.
Yep.
But yeah, look, that kick-started the dairy industry. Pasteurisation occurred. And
I mean, originally, I mean, traditionally, it's changed probably what the last 10, 15 years. Australia was dominated by cooperatives, wasn't it? I mean, so if you talk where you are, you had the Miller Cooperative and you had the Malanda Cooperative. And I mean, the ones people would know further down south would have been Bonlac until they got taken over by Fonterra. And then you had Murray Goulburn until they got taken over by Saputo. I mean, that's another story. But where you are, it would have originally been Miller and Malanda would have been two separate crops.
Malanda, Ravenshoe, Ingham, Innisfail, Golden
Oh, there's
Grove.
more.
Yeah,
Right.
there was a lot. There was 1,000 farms on the tableland at one stage, no trouble at all. And then over the years, like 1972, Malanda and Miller combined. The factory was still there, but officially it was closed in 1972. The Malanda factory has moved on. We used to make yogurts, flavoured milk, casein, some powders. We had the pilot plant to do the protein isolation for pharmaceuticals. Cheese, we did everything. We were one of the few factories that did everything.
Now you basically had the market of North Queensland to yourself as well, though, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a regulated industry up until 2000. So our market went down to Townsville and a little bit further, and then Parmalee, which is now Lactalis, they had a factory in Rocky, so they had the area from Mackay south, and then in southeast Queensland it was split up. The government did all this, and in their wisdom they decided that on the 1st of July 2000, after many schemes from 1983 on to encourage exports and try to wean the industry off domestic marketing, they decided to deregulate us, and that's what caused the big drop in farmers, because the price here went from 58 cents for market milk to 44 cents for market milk overnight, and the average price obviously dropped as well. We were totally different to the rest of Queensland. We were on a percentage system here. So if 100 litres of milk went into the factory and 50 litres got sold in a bottle, you got 50% at 58 cents a litre. And I had a look in 1993, we were getting 16 cents for manufactured milk. So you got the other 50 litres at 16. If it was 80 litres in a bottle and 20 litres into manufacturing, that's how it worked out. Come the 1st of July 2000, it was a single price across all milk.
Yeah.
And that it basically crucified the industry. And not only here, I mean, Victoria lost 1,500 farms in the first year, Andrew.
I remember, because we were looking at rotaries before we built that rotary in North Queensland.
That's right. That's right.
Me and the old man went down to Victoria for the week looking at rotaries, and it was interesting. We were talking because we were being told in North Queensland, and I guess elsewhere, it was the Victorians wanted it. The Victorians wanted it. They were the guys that wanted it, and we all said to the Victorian farmers, "So you want deregulation?" And they all just looked at us, shrugged their shoulders, went, "Not really, but we're being told that's what's happening."
Yeah, they ceded their right to vote to the UDV.
Yeah.
They handed over their agreement. Yep.
And most people sort of went, well, what do we do? And you sort of had guys with rotaries went, well, we'll milk another 50 cows. It's only another 10 minutes on the rotary. Hey, don't worry about it. Whereas everybody else that had a traditional herringbone or whatever it was, and you went, well, I'm going to milk another 50 cows. Well, that's another half an hour. And it just, as you say, people left. I remember, you know, the numbers dropped quite considerably, quite quickly after deregulation, just in North Queensland.
So when you were here, we exported roughly a third of our milk.
Yep.
Righto. So you're sitting down, I hope.
Yeah.
Australia is now a net importer of milk.
Is it now a net input? I know it's gone from pre the drought in 2007, was it 12 billion litres? And I know it's down to about 8 billion litres.
Yep.
So it's actually importing milk now, is it?
Well, righto. So if you look at how much we produce and how much, the only reason we can export is because we import. If we ate and drank all the dairy production that we produced,
Yep.
we would only have enough for our consumption. We wouldn't have enough to export. Because we import, there is now some volume of milk able to be exported.
To export. But I mean, that's it. I mean, it's in what's that going to be, 15 years? Yep. The dairy industry is reduced by a third, basically, hasn't it, in Australia?
Well, it's the expectation is it will drop further this year.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, look, last year we had a farm startup, Steve Soley's farm, kicked over again late June, early July last year. We've got another farm out at Butchers Creek, Alan Wall. His farm will kick over again under different ownership, obviously. But
yep.
His farm will kick over probably by the end of this month. And we've got another young bloke looking at starting up here probably January.
I mean, you've got the same here, haven't you? There are young fellas, as you say, starting back into it. Or I'll be honest with you, I'm off next week to go and see someone I've been asked to go and see. Father got out of dairying, son is now getting back into dairying, and I mean, I've got clients myself where that's what's happened. They got out of dairying 10 years ago. The kids have now reached an age where they want to get back in, so they've invested and gone dairying again. So while there's plenty of people getting out, there are people coming in, but it's a net loss overall, though.
Yeah. I mean, look, one of the biggest issues here, Andrew, is if someone wants to start up, there are no cows for sale.
Right. So we haven't had that problem here.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard or not, mate. Rodney Harton just finished up.
Yes, I saw that.
Well, Rodney and his family have been on that farm since 1932. And yeah, look, sad day for the industry. Really, really positive day for Rodney. Really happy for him that he got out. But there's none of the family are interested, et cetera, same thing as everywhere else. But we've got really, really good people. Most of the people I know out here, really, really good farmers, really, really good people, really dedicated to the industry. And as an area here, we just did Landline just did a story on the young people coming through on the tableland.
I was going to say you've got Henry Bevan.
Yep.
Seems to be coming to a front.
Yep. Casey Clark, Casey Johnson, Darren and Rosemary Johnson.
Yep.
Gavin Doole's young fellow, Jason, he's back on the farm running that. Look, we're really lucky. We've got a lot of young people coming back into the industry, and you can't just say the industry's buggered. If you want young people to come in, if you want new people to come in, there's got to be positive stories around. I did a bit of talkback radio with a radio station in Cairns the other day, and he said, he'd read the article, the print article from the Landline thing.
Yeah, I sent it to you, didn't I, Neil? Yeah.
And he just said, look, this is so different to what we were talking about 12 months ago. I said, yeah, but John, we got a huge price rise last year. I mean, up until last year, the biggest price rise I had ever seen in my time in the game was 5 cents. Last year we got 18 cents.
Wow.
All right. So that.
So what are you getting? What are you getting at the moment?
We're currently averaging about 84 cents a litre, which is
84 cents a litre.
Yeah, but you've got to remember that's North Queensland components.
Yes. Yes.
On exactly the same dollars a kilo, Southeast Queensland is 3 cents ahead of us because of their
really,
just because of their components and their quality.
Right.
So we're on a bit over $12 a kilo.
Okay, $12 a kilo.
Yep, milk
That's
solids.
a good price. That's a very good price.
It is. But if we didn't get it, Andrew, the industry wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
Look, when I spoke to John McKenzie, the talkback bloke, a few years ago, we were trying to get the 10 cents out of Coles and Woolworths.
Yep.
And he said, you know, what's going to happen? I said, mate, if we don't get it now, farmers are going to think that we'll never get it. And there's going to be discussions held around kitchen tables. There'll be decisions made. I said, you won't know about them. I won't know about them. But there will be decisions made which no one will see the effects of for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to John the other day, he said, you've still got farmers leaving. I said, remember we talked about the discussions around the kitchen table, John? Yeah. I said, mate, this is the outcome. Like Bob Johnson, Bob's in Malanda, only milks, 80 cows, give or take. I think he's got a bit over 12 months left in the industry.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the industry, just time to go.
Time. Yeah, exactly. For anyone that's interested, that 84 cents is currently 44 pence a litre.
Okay.
Whereas we are currently probably averaging
36.
Yeah,
34.
35, 36, depending on who you're supplying. You might be getting 38, 39, or you might be getting 34. So
yeah, I think those are the average. It's about 34, but it could be higher than that.
Yeah, it's probably 34, 35 is our average at the moment.
So
it changes, obviously.
So we're paying mid 600s for cow feed for 14% pellet.
Hold on. What do you say? What do you think you're paying?
Make it 650. It's probably a little bit higher, but make it 650.
Let's say 650. That's 343. At the moment, a good quality pellet for the winter, if you're talking, let's say an 18% high energy, you're probably talking 320, 330 as an average. So not a million miles.
No, within the ballpark anyway.
I mean, that's an 18% as well, whereas you said a 14.
Yep. So cottonseed, you wouldn't have cotton over there?
No, there is somebody importing cottonseed or can potentially do it, but we wouldn't get cottonseed normally here.
Righto. So just to give you some idea, mate, we contracted cottonseed at the start of the year.
Yep.
$340 a tonne plus freight, which is $175 a tonne. So
yep.
515 landed here.
415.
That's 515 delivered here.
Sorry, yeah.
Yep, plus GST.
Yeah, well that's what's GST, 10% these days, isn't it?
10%. Yep.
That's 272. So by the time you add on GST, you're talking just under 300 a tonne.
Righto. So from the start of the year to now, it is now $710 a tonne at the gym.
Wow.
Plus
what's gone wrong?
China's buying it.
All right.
What about?
Well, I thought it must be.
What about molasses? What would that be?
Molasses just went up $30 a tonne at the mill. It is now $330 a tonne at the mill. 330. So what would it be to get it on farm? Well, it's 11 tonnes in a truck, so 3,300, obviously.
Yeah.
No. 3,630 plus freight, which is probably $600.
So let's say it's 330 plus, let's say $60 for freight. So let's make
Yep.
it around 400. Well, that's just straight cane molasses, isn't it?
Yep. Yes.
That's 211 today, whereas over here, cane molasses would probably cost you about 330 on farm. £330 on farm to get cane molasses.
Holy.
So I mean,
Okay.
well, I've talked about it before because we did a podcast a couple of months ago, didn't we, about molasses? Oh, you missed that.
No,
one,
I missed
didn't
that
you?
one.
Oh, you missed that one.
Right.
And I was sort of saying, like, up in North Queensland, it was, well, it's probably obviously it's not now, but it was as cheap as chips, and people literally just fed it ad lib in the parlour or in the dairy. Whereas here, you wouldn't do that. There's obviously a cost and expense to it. So yeah. But going back a little bit then, so obviously we talked about Malander. I mean, Malander's got some things it's famous for, as in Malander milk. Do you want to tell us about them a little bit?
Yeah, look, mate, we're proud as punch of our history. So Malander milk used to have the longest milk run in the world. We used to put the milk in trucks here.
Used to be in the Guinness Book of Records.
Wow.
That's right. Used to put it in a truck here and drive it up to Darwin. So go west from here, 12 hours to Mount Isa, keep going west, and then go north and end up in Darwin. They would just drive it straight through from here. And for anyone that can't find Malander on a map, it's the same distance from Malander to Darwin as it is from Adelaide in South Australia to Darwin. Because when we stop,
is it that far?
It is.
I'd never realised that.
when we stopped doing it, National Foods started doing it out of South Australia.
Yeah. Do you know what? I never realised that it's the same distance from Malander to Darwin as it is from Adelaide to Darwin.
Yep.
I mean, having driven from Darwin down to Alice, and then immediately took the plane to Adelaide. Yeah, that's a long old trek.
It is, mate. But even our everyday trek, Andrew, from here to Weipa in a truck, mate, you know, like there's only about 100k of dirt between here and Weipa now. But, you know, 20 years ago, we blew 6 tyres on the main road going north, and we never got to Weipa. We go up there every day. We go to Mount Isa every day. It's a 12-hour drive one way. And we go down to McCoy every day. That's an 8-hour drive every day. That's our area. That's what we
area. Yeah. And I mean, and that's it. Like you say, I might have stories. I might have said them before on old podcasts. I mean, when you had, was it Cyclone Tracy took out Darwin? Yep. Was it 76? They actually 74, sorry. They actually flew and parachuted in fresh milk into Darwin, didn't they, for the mothers and babies, because they couldn't get through with the trucks.
And mate, look, Malander milk was a very, we were owned by the local farmers. We were run by the local farmers. We had some really exceptional staff. Mate, we exported milk from here to Guam either in the late 60s or the early 70s in bladders. We airlifted it to Guam.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's only, geez, mate, 10 years ago. It's only 10 years ago we were told you cannot air freight milk. And I was going, wait, we did it. We did it 30 years ago. He's going, no, you can't do it. And I'm going, mate, we've already done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's his own head.
And back then you wouldn't have had Cairns Airport like you do now
no,
either.
Hell no. Like Cairns Airport was there, but it was nothing like it is now.
No, so, no, definitely not.
Yeah, so look, we're proud as punch of what we've got, like everyone else is around the world where they live. Yeah, look, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live. You've got to be careful of the stinging trees. So there's it's a pioneer tree. It's very soft. It dies relatively quickly. If a tree falls over in the rainforest around here, a stinging tree will come up. It's just waiting to grow. And on their leaves, they've got a heart-shaped leaf. And if it's got little tiny hairs on the leaf, if you pat that leaf in one direction, it will not hurt you. If you touch that leaf, it will bite you. It's like 50 hypodermic needles digging into you.
I remember having a bottle of poison around constantly. Just as soon as you saw a stinging tree, you killed it.
Yep. Look, we take people down the scrub and show them the trees. We don't let them touch them, obviously. But I've seen national park rangers actually pat the leaves and show you that it can be done.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even risk it.
Oh, they know what they're doing though. Look, I got stung. I would have been 14 or 15. I brushed one on my shoulder, and by the time they got me home on the horse, which was probably 1.5 kilometres away, and that horse galloped every step of the way, the lymph glands under my arm had already started to swell. I had wheals where the leaf touched me. And you still, when you have a shower, like literally up to 12 months later, you can still feel it.
Wow.
I was up cutting timber with my father-in-law, and like I said, if you clear anything, these things come up. And he said to me, you need to wear, like the Wild West movies, you wear a handkerchief around your face.
Yeah.
He said, if you don't do that, the dust off the stinging trees will make you bleed out the nose. And I'm just going, yeah, whatever. Anyway, he was right.
But it's not just stinging trees, is it? I mean, well, the real poison snakes aren't where you are, but you've got the ticks. Oh, are you?
We're getting, there's been a few browns around here just lately.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard over there, but it's a big year for brown snakes in Australia.
No, we haven't heard that. I say it was just red-bellied blacks and pythons when I was there.
Yep.
So you've got the snakes, you've got the stinging trees, you've got the ticks, you've got the cane toads. What else is there? There's something. Oh, you've got some spiders. Why do you want to live there, James?
Just go down the coast now. We got crocodiles.
Well, yeah.
A bloke down in the Russell River, just at Gordonvale there. He dived into the river the other. Oh, this is 12 months ago. He dived into the mouth of a crocodile.
Oh my word!
Wow.
It was a freshie, but he literally dived into its open mouth.
I was saying, got leeches. I'm not sure why did I live up there for 6 years or whatever it was,
just to see what would happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, it was an experience.
The biggest snake we've picked up here. I don't mind the pythons; they're pretty handy. We picked up a 3.95 metre python down the paddock. Brought him, sat on the motorbike, held his head in my hand, wrapped him around my waist, brought him home. Got a couple of photos, took him back, let him go.
Yeah.
The bloke that owned this place before me, he saw a 20-footer down on that bottom flat, the flat that's 300 feet lower than where I am. He saw the snake on the head of a tree down there. He also spent 4 hours trying to push a 14-foot python into his tucker bag, because the local ambulance used to support themselves. The government didn't give them money, or didn't give them much money, so they used to sell snakes by the foot. And a 14-foot snake was going to be worth a bit of money, so he spent 4 hours trying to put it in his tucker bag and give it up. And just next door to us here, Andrew, they cleared the gorge, the very steep country, and there was a couple of trees still standing, so Don, the bloke next door, at that time, him and the dog went down to fall a couple of these trees that were left, and he's crawling in under the lantana. And
there's another good one. What, you don't want lantana? Why do you want that? That'll kill your cattle. Not.
Well, down in Victoria, they make hedges out of it. They actually go and buy it and fertilise it.
I know.
Up here, it kills cattle. Well, this bloke's dog jumped over the log, and the log looking at, he backed back, went down the hill, went back in, and the same snake was lying there. So he went further down the hill and back in, and the same snake was still there. So he went home.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, you remember Maxie?
Yeah.
Yep. So Max used to own the block next to us down here that we've bought off him now. He come back and saw us in October 2005, and he said, "You been down the back?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "You seen him?" I went, "How long is he?" And he was about 2.5 foot high when he was curled up. And I said, "Well, how long is he, Max?" He said, "I've got a stick and just give him a tickle." He said, "Mate, if he's not 20 feet, he's 25.
Yeah.
So I spent a few hours each day for the next 3 days down there just looking to get a photo of him. But I never ever laid eyes on him.
Wow.
I got to be honest, I never saw anything like that. The most I probably saw was 6 foot at the most. And I never saw anything that size.
I'd have to have a mirror to see that size. I'd be running too fast.
Sorry, what was that, James?
No, look, we've got a 7 foot that lives in the dairy, just above.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I knew a few people like that had them sort of round the dairy because, of course, they're vermin control, aren't they?
Absolutely.
They are. So look, just to go on with that, mate, as we were talking about before you started recording over at Atherton, there's a photo. I've got the photo somewhere here. I just can't find it. There's a photo of a strangler fig tree. So the tree grows up, and then a fig tree gets a fig tree seed gets deposited on a bough, in a fork, whatever, by a bird, and it grows, and it will eventually strangle the tree that it is growing on. And that tree will eventually die, and the strangler will go to the next tree next to it, and again and again. So
it's worth looking up. For anybody who wants to see what James is talking about, look up cathedral fig tree or curtain fig tree. They're usually a good picture of what they are. Yeah.
Right. So this tree, they put a photo of it in the London Times in 1907, and in the photo there's a bloke sitting on a horse, there's a bullock, and there's a bloke maybe 30, 40, 50 feet up the tree. They're very, very small. That tree was 158 feet around. It's not a solid tree, but in World War II, the Americans used it as a landmark because obviously there was no GPS or anything like that back then. But yeah, after World War II, they burnt that tree and 2 others down because they needed to grow food. So that's what happened.
Oh yeah, like you say. I mean, I said earlier in this piece, wasn't it? Like Miller's only been going since what 1911 or something
exactly
like that.
Right.
You know, and I certainly remember when I was there was the back of our block. There was country there, told had only been cleared sort of 10 years previously, and you sort of went, well, why? Given it was only dry cow country, but that's what was done. It was rainforest.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And just to indicate the storms that you were speaking about, tell us a story about where the bullocks were in the tree.
Yeah. Look, this is back in in the early days, and they had bullocks pulling timber out of the scrub, and there was a thunderstorm, and they lost the team of bullocks. So we're talking about between 10 and 16 fully grown bullocks, and they couldn't find them, and they eventually found them inside the tree because the trees aren't solid.
Yeah,
incredible. I got to say, I didn't used to mind thunderstorms till I lived in North Queensland. I mean, here you get a thunderstorm and that's it. As James knows, we're coming into he'd be coming into storm season now. But you go out at night and there will literally about half a dozen storms all the way around you, won't there? And I certainly had everybody knows property that's been struck by it or cows that have been lost by it. I mean, I remember living in the old Queenslander and a clap went over literally above the house and it made me literally jump straight out of bed and wonder what the hell, stood on 2 feet wondering what was going on because the noise was just horrendous and it made the whole house shake.
Yeah,
and it was
yeah. Proper storms.
Yeah, exactly. The storms are nothing over here, I tell you.
So, on top of that, we get cyclones.
Yep.
So there's only been 3 decent cyclones since I've been here. One was Winifred in 1986. One was Larry in 2006, and one was Yassi in 2011. By far, the biggest was Yassi. By far, the most dangerous, or not the most dangerous, but the most destructive was Larry in 2006.
I remember talking to yourself or someone else at the time saying, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but being in a room and literally the glass shattered about a minute after they'd been out the room, and it was embedded in the wall where they'd been stood.
Well, so where I'm sitting talking to you now, Andrew, I was sitting on this table doing an interview with the ABC radio about the dancing heifers, because our heifers had come home and they were walking up the tanker track. And when the gusts of wind come, because it's not a consistent wind, it comes and it goes, they would walk forward as the wind dropped, and as the wind picked up, it would blow them back. And then they'd walk forward, and then it'd blow them back. And on the ABC radio, I had a lady from West Australia that I knew at the time. She rang up and she said, I heard you on the radio the other day talking about the dancing heifers. So while I'm sitting on the table doing that interview, sorry, my wife was here with me, and she said, I don't feel safe. And she went and sat downstairs where there's 2 brick walls and a room between them. Well, I'm still sitting on the table, and a piece of 4x2 timber, hardwood timber, comes through the ceiling of the kitchen here and hit the wall like a foot from where she had been standing 4 or 5 minutes before. And I said to the bloke, oh, geez, that's not good. And he goes, what happened? I said, I think I just lost the roof. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll give you the hint. We're not going out to put it back on, mate. Anyway, what had happened was part of the roof at the dairy had come off, and a piece of 4x2 out of that roof had come up, gone through our roof, and hit the wall.
Hit the wall.
Wow.
But I mean, we were safe. There was no issue. So
Yeah. Got away with it. Yeah.
But like I say, it's only 3 in 40 years, mate. It's not, and until they get to a category 3, they're just not worth naming.
Well, I remember Rona, and you didn't even mention that. I guess that had hit a rain depression more by the time it hit us, hadn't it? That was a lot of rain.
Well, I'm not sure what brought it, but the heaviest rain I remember here was 825 mils in 2 days. So we had rain on Saturday and Sunday. It broke on Monday, and on Wednesday there was dust flying on the road, but there was still water in the bottom of the puddles.
But that's what you say. It's the depth of topsoil up there, isn't it? I mean, I remember when I moved before I moved to Australia, I was told, it's 30 to 40 feet. And then when I got there, I was told, no, it's 30 to 40 meters of topsoil. So it is incredibly free draining. Right. And if we need that, you need that 100 inches. But what you could do with is 2 inches a week, maybe Wednesday and Saturday night, and it would be perfect. Not huge deluge. Right. Not huge deluge. Right. And I mean, I remember, you know exactly who I'm talking about. An old farmer, he's an old woodcutter before that, wasn't it? If there wasn't rain for 3 days, we had an effing drought going on up there, because you just needed the rain. Yeah.
If you could organise that rain on Wednesday and Saturday, that'd be well appreciated.
Yeah, well, and then occasional 2-week break so you can make hay leaf.
Well, I suppose that's the other thing, Andrew. Our pasture here is totally different to what you've got.
Yeah.
And the fibre in our pasture restricts how much milk we can get.
Yeah.
So we plant ryegrass every year. We plant it March, April, or April, May. Probably April, May is a better example. And it's finished now. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. It can't compete with the tropical grasses, can it?
No. And I mean the Soteria in the ryegrass paddocks has already come back. It's already gone to seed. And I was over at the son-in-law's place today. They're irrigating and mowing paddocks, topping paddocks.
Wow.
Yeah, just to keep the pasture quality up there now.
Amazing.
I know it's all the same but different. It really is. And you know, you still milk cows, you still graze cows, but you know, for myself, I had to learn to graze tropical grasses that over here you might go in at covers of, I don't know what you're going to say, ryegrass 3000. So what's that going to be? Let's say 6 inches, to then when you take them out, they're going to be what, 2 inches down or whatever it is. I remember you go in at what, foot 18 inches or whatever it is, and you come out at 6 inches, because if you graze it too tight, that's when you let the weeds in. That's when you let the lantana in, or whatever else it was. So it was learning to graze differently.
So you got out just at the right time, mate. We now have a weed called Navua sedge, Navua space SEDGE. It's
Never
a grass.
heard of it. Yeah.
We're really lucky, mate. It was on my father-in-law's place back in the early 80s, and we were spraying it with Roundup. We had no idea what it was. We just knew it wasn't good.
Yeah.
There are now people walking off their properties because of it.
Wow.
You look it up. It goes from a seed to a seeding plant in 78 days. It's got 250,000 seeds per flower.
Yeah.
And it's got a 15-year seed life in the soil.
Oh, my word.
Wow. And where does it come from originally?
South America.
Right.
And we've been spraying it here on blocks that we lease for 15 plus years, and there's more of it now than there has ever been. And we spray a lot. We're on the bike a lot spraying. And just for fun, in the back of your place, where I can look across to your place, there was, if the sun is right, I can see it shining from here.
Wow.
So yeah, look, there's some specific chemicals out for it now, but the 15-year in the soil seed life is a big issue.
That's an issue, yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. You end up buying your farm back every year.
Pretty close.
Yeah. We used to have that with blue gums. I remember that farmers used to say to me, was getting rid of them, you actually end up buying your farm back every year with the amount of money that you're paying. So
well, as much as I hate to say it, I'm now looking at the time, and we've been going for well over an hour already. And I know I could quite happily just keep talking to you for another hour, because I looked at the time at like 50 minutes and I'm like, really? Have we been that long already? It only felt like sort of 20 minutes. So from the point of view of the podcast, I think it's probably time to draw it to a close, because otherwise it will be our longest podcast. But hopefully people will enjoy it, because it's just giving us a flavour of farming somewhere else and what it's like elsewhere, and that's what we wanted to do. So hopefully people will enjoy that, and you know, we'll do something similar again if people do. So on that note, any last words of wisdom from yourself, James?
Mate. Yeah, look, we're just talking about your cow, Page House Shottlenoney, tonight again. Yeah, look, I mean, people remember, and yeah, I mean, look, we remember you and your mum and dad fondly from your time here, and I think that's why we all the dairy industry is a family. That's how we see it. That's how we treat it. And yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of. We've had a bloke, Andrew. He was in the industry. He only worked in the industry. He never owned a farm. But he doesn't milk cows anymore. But he still comes to the QDO, the eastAUSmilk.
Yeah.
He still comes to those things because of that family connection.
Yeah.
It's like being part of a group of people. And yeah, look, I mean, people belong to it. And I mean, yeah, people remember you and your mum and dad. And you know, we're talking about different people the other day. And this bloke looked at me, he goes, Geraghty, Ambrose. I said, yeah, Ambrose, my granddad. Lismore's good bloke. Rah, mate, my grandfather died in 1967. This bloke knew my grandfather.
Yeah, amazing.
You know, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking going, how? How could you possibly remember him? But I was down where we come from at Lismore. I was down there last year doing a meeting down there, and we went out and we met this farmer, and he goes, rah, rah, rah. He said, you said today that you come from here. I went, yeah. He said, where'd you come from? I said, McLean's Ridges. He said, mate, you should go up and see this bloke. I said, oh, yeah. And he gave me the name, and I couldn't go because we're going back to Brisbane that afternoon. And he said, mate, he's 94. He would remember your grandfather when your grandfather left here.
Wow.
And I'm just going, mate, I wish I had time. I really do. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, mate, yeah, fondly remembered, always enjoyed, really enjoyed tonight, mate. Look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Yeah, no, we should definitely do this again, James, because I know in the last, well, pretty much since I left North Queensland, we kept in contact, usually via messaging on Facebook or whatever it's been. And that's the great thing, but it's actually really nice to sit down and have a chat with you. So, yeah, no, we will.
It's really nice to realise that I'm not the only one getting older, Andrew.
That's right. But it is a wonderful industry. You guys are right. It is really.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, look, mate, we've got really, really good. Someone said to me the other day, why do you do what you do? And I went, well, mate, they're my people, whether they want to be or not. At this point of time, I represent them and they're my people.
Yeah,
exactly. They're family. It's just like a big family. So, righto, I'll let you go. It has been brilliant, mate. Look forward to talking to you again in the future. Nice to meet you, Neil.
Yeah, thanks, James. You too.
Well, why don't
you come out here and do the podcast from out here?
We ain't going to say no to that. If you're going to pay for the tickets, James, we'll come.
I was thinking, mate, all the money you're going to drag in on this, you'll need a tax deduction. So
that would be nice.
We've already suggested, we've had a listener from Hawaii once, haven't we? We said we'd quite happily go to Hawaii and do the podcast. But, you know, if the offer's there, I'm sure we'll get there one day. We'll get there one day. I would love to come back to North Queensland again one day, but just catch up with people. But yeah, you just hang there a minute, James. But I guess otherwise, anything else from yourself?
No, that was absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much, James. That was I enjoyed it. Lovely to hear different stories.
Exactly. That was wonderful. So as I say, this is our December one. So happy Christmas.
Yes, happy Christmas.
And a happy New Year. And we look forward to speaking to you all again soon.
Absolutely. Till next time.
No worries. Saying you goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Now for the really boring bit, I'm afraid, the legal disclaimer. The information provided during this podcast has been prepared for general information purposes only and does not constitute advice. The information must not be relied upon for any purpose and no representation or warranty is given to its accuracy, completeness or otherwise. Any reference to other organisations, businesses or products during the podcast are not endorsements or recommendations of ChewintheCud Limited. The views of Andrew Jones are personal and may not be the views of ChewintheCud Limited, and the views of Neil Greggor are personal and may not be the views of Viking Genetics and any affiliated companies. For more information on the podcast, articles and details of services offered by ChewintheCud Limited, visit www.chewinthecud.com. Thank you and goodbye.